You were watching in the green room, but I want to play you something again that Rachel broke on her show in the last hour. It's from another Senate race, this one in Ohio. And it's a good reminder about how Republicans talk about abortion. This is Ohio Republican Bernie Moreno, who is trying to defeat incumbent Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown.
You know, the left has a lot of single-issue voters. Sadly, by the way, there's a lot of suburban women. A lot of suburban women that are like, listen, abortion's it. If I can't have an abortion in this country whenever I want, I will vote for anybody else. Okay, a little crazy, by the way, but especially for women that are like past 50, I'm thinking to myself, that's an issue for you. Oh, thank God my wife didn't hear that one. Oh, they didn't get trouble.
Congresswoman, what? Love your reaction, but what is it about Republican men in this issue?
I mean, the complete disconnect, arrogance, and the fact that they don't understand the power that women have in this country to vote against these far-right, extreme politicians, including Rick Scott, that have no respect for women. I wish you would have shown, Jonathan, and hopefully you will, there's a video of Rick Scott spreading disinformation in a classroom full of young women and young men, spreading these disturbing tropes that Democrats somehow are for ending abortions at 9 months. And it's completely false. It's completely misleading. Rick Scott has been now avoiding me. As you saw, we are tied in the polls. Actually, there was another poll that came out last week, which has me just a point below. Florida's in play. It's something that I've been saying for quite some time. You heard those voters. They all, for them, one of the top issues in this race is making sure that they protect a woman's right to choose. And the choice is clear in this election. People will see clearly the contrast between me and Rick Scott, someone that supports the 6-week abortion ban. But I can't do this alone. And I've been saying this for quite some time. And I need everyone watching to go to my website, Debbie for Florida, support my race. We are within the margin of error, and we just started communicating. Look, Floridians want someone that's going to be fighting for them and not against them. And I think that that's what you're seeing, that energy on the ground of everyone making sure that we bring the change that is needed in this country.
All right, and I'm going to come to Florida being in play because you're not the only one who thinks that. But how do you think him saying this and saying, but especially for women that are like past 50, I'm thinking to myself, I don't think that's an issue for you. How does that play with women voters? He's acting as if as long as from his perspective, a woman isn't able to have children, they don't care about this issue. It's bigger than that.
Yeah, it's much bigger than that. And first of all, obviously the man doesn't understand how a woman's body works because, you know, women can have children at the age of 50. And maybe he needs a little bit of a course on the reproductive, organs of a woman, which obviously they're completely out of touch. But we have daughters, Jonathan. I have 2 daughters. I have a son. This is an issue that is extremely important to me as a mom. I want to make sure that my daughters are protected from these attacks. Living in a state with such an extreme ban on abortion, we know that there's a higher rate of violence against women when these abortion bans go into effect. We also know that there are higher rates of maternal mortality. In Miami, just a few weeks ago, we heard of yet another story of a woman that was turned away, lost half her blood, and almost died. Pregnancy is a very critical piece of a healthcare for a woman. And it's also many women have to face very complicated pregnancies. And so we have been talking to healthcare providers that are now forced to turn away women. They are now traveling thousands and thousands of miles away to Virginia. Let me just tell you one thing that I tell Floridians, though. We have this opportunity to vote for Amendment 4. We need 60% of the votes to be able to pass it, enshrine it into the state constitution. But it's not going to mean anything if Rick Scott gets his way, gets reelected, and then pushes for a national abortion ban. He voted against access to IVF twice, and yet he has ads all over the state of Florida right now telling Floridians that he wants to protect access to IVF. This is the fraud that I'm running against, but this is the fraud that Floridians are ready to retire in November.
Well, as a moment ago, you said Florida is in play, and someone who agrees with you is Steve Phillips, who wrote in The Nation that data shows Vice President Harris could win states like Florida and North Carolina and Florida and help down ballot Democrats like you along the way. And I'm going to read, quote, As was the case with Obama's candidacy, Harris has electrified the electorate, causing a surge of enthusiasm and excitement across the country, especially galvanizing people of color and women of color in particular, who have demonstrated their excitement about the prospect of sending someone of their background and life experience to the White House. Congresswoman, are you seeing that from voters on the campaign trail?
Jonathan, I wish, and I tell everyone, you need to come down and see what's going on in Florida. I had 4 different events yesterday in the state, in different areas of the state, and those rallies were packed. We had actually an event with Haitian Americans that are extremely offended by the hateful rhetoric that's been coming out of the former president. Rick Scott has remained complicit by not saying anything, and we have almost 500,000 Haitian Americans that call Florida their home. And Kamala Harris is the daughter of immigrants. So a lot of people in the state of Florida relate to that story. And she's actually within 2 points of Donald Trump right now. So we're seeing women, men, students in all the different universities organizing, mobilizing, registering to vote at rates that we haven't seen in a long time. And one thing to remember, Florida has always been a swing state. We won in 2008 and in 2012 for Obama. And then, of course, it shifted to the right. And we're seeing that shift right back to us. And we saw it in August, Jonathan, a lot of special elections and a lot of the school board elections. We won against the DeSantis-funded Moms for Liberty school board elections. So we have all these data points. Democrats have been winning since the Dobbs decision. We are going to show the country who we truly are in Florida.
You know, the primaries in August was sort of a thunderclap in Florida. Just the enthusiasm on the Democratic side should ring alarm bells for Republicans and for your opponent, Rick Scott. Debbie Murkazile-Powell, former Congresswoman, thank you very much for coming back to The Last Word.
Thank you, Jonathan.